Welcome to Pillowtime lore, my dear ones. Have you ever wondered what happens when the day finally exhales, when the sun slips behind the clouds and the world hushes itself just for you? Tonight, let's step into that quiet together, where time slows and every little sound becomes part of the story. Close your eyes and feel the blankets wrap around you, soft and warm, like they remember every hug you've ever needed. Do you remember how the night felt as a child? How a single story could make the stars twinkle a little brighter, or turn a creaking floorboard into the footsteps of a wandering hero? That sense of wonder is still inside you, waiting for a gentle nudge to come alive. Here at Pillowtime Lore, each tale is a doorway. Maybe it leads to a hidden garden full of glowing fireflies, or a quiet forest where whispers of magic drift on the wind. Perhaps it simply brings you back to the soft rhythm of a heartbeat, reminding you that you are safe, loved, and exactly where you need to be. So, my dear, what shall we explore tonight? A laugh, a sigh, a little thrill, or just the calm comfort of knowing you can finally rest? Let the words wrap around you. Let your thoughts drift away, and follow me into a world where every story is stitched with warmth and wonder. Welcome to Pillowtime Lore, where the night carries you gently, and every story feels like a hug for your soul. Sometimes, my dear, life has a funny way of bringing strangers together in the oddest places. Places that look calm at first, but hide stories waiting to unfold. Not every invitation is what it seems. Not every quiet path leads where you expect. And curiosity, curiosity often pushes people further than caution ever could. There are houses tucked away on hills or hidden in fog, where the air feels heavier, the wind carries whispers, and even a simple weekend can turn into something unforgettable. The people who arrive rarely carry just their bags. They carry memories, choices, regrets, and questions they didn't even know would matter. Sometimes you think you know what awaits you, but the world has a way of teaching lessons you weren't prepared for. And there are nights, my love, where the quiet itself feels alive, where shadows stretch longer, and every creak or flutter might be a story trying to get out, a secret eager to be noticed. Sometimes the smallest things, a flicker of light, a sudden sound, can unravel everything you thought was safe, and suddenly the world doesn't feel so ordinary anymore. So lean in, my sweet, and listen closely, for the story you are about to hear is one of mystery, of fear and wonder, of secrets that slip through cracks in the walls, of choices that have consequences, of nights where the air itself seems to hold its breath. Sometimes the quietest places hide the loudest surprises, and sometimes the night itself has a tale to tell, waiting for those who dare to listen. 7 strangers sat in their separate homes, each holding a delicate envelope in their hands, the paper slightly thick and the handwriting elegant and flowing, each letter inviting them to a weekend at a guest house on Misty Hill, a place both beautiful and dangerous. Curiosity stirred quietly, and yet fear whispered at the edges. Life often asks us to step into the unknown before we are ready. Sometimes the thrill of discovery is inseparable from the shadow of doubt. Some wondered what awaited them, others felt a strange pull, as if fate had nudged them forward. There is always a moment when the ordinary cracks, and we are forced to confront the possibility that everything can change in a heartbeat. As they prepared for the journey, excitement mingled with hesitation, the mind flitting between hope and worry. We carry unseen burdens, moments we cannot undo, regrets that linger like ghosts, and yet even in those moments, the heart longs for something unfamiliar, something that reminds us we are alive. The road ahead may be winding and uncertain, but sometimes it is the uncertainty itself that awakens courage. Life is rarely patient, and opportunity often arrives wrapped in shadows. The air felt charged, as if the world was holding its breath, reminding them that choices must be made, and there is no turning back without consequence. When they finally arrived, the guest house appeared through the fog, silent and watching, imposing yet oddly welcoming. Stepping inside, they felt anticipation and unease woven together. The storm outside mirrored the turbulence within. Some things are learned only when the world seems to trap us, when isolation forces reflection and the quiet moments reveal truths too often ignored. Fear sharpens perception, curiosity demands action, and in the tension between them we find the essence of who we are. Each glance at the others held questions unspoken. The weekend ahead promised secrets and challenges. A mirror held to their own choices and pasts, and they realized that sometimes the most gripping stories are not the ones that happen around us, but the ones that unfold quietly within. The guests arrived at the guest house one by one, their footsteps echoing against the stone pathway, each offering a hesitant smile or polite nod. Curiosity and tension hung thick in the air. Life often feels like this, meeting strangers whose intentions we cannot read. None of them shared much in common, yet everyone carried the same invisible weight of expectation and doubt. Sometimes the unknown calls louder than reason, and we answer even when the answer frightens us. Questions circled their minds about the others, about themselves, about the choices that had led them here. Inside, the guest house revealed its grandeur. High ceilings and chandeliers swaying slightly with the gusts outside. The furniture old yet polished, the scent of wax and wood lingering like memories we cannot place. The long dining table waiting silently as if aware of the secrets that might unfold. Stern-faced portraits lining the walls reminded them that judgment often lingers in the places we least expect. Some moments teach us more about who we are when we feel watched than when we feel free. Anticipation mingled with unease, a reminder that comfort is often a mask for what lies beneath. A housekeeper emerged from the shadows, quiet and composed, explaining she had been hired only for the weekend and knew nothing of the host or the guests. Her calm presence did little to settle the tension. Sometimes the people we trust most can offer only fragments of certainty, while the rest remains hidden. The storm outside intensified, wind rattling the doors, rain hammering the windows, the elements reminding them that control is often an illusion, that isolation can magnify the truths we try to ignore. As night fell, the guests retreated to their rooms, yet still felt the weight of being observed. The storm cutting off the world beyond the guest house, shadows stretching and twisting along the walls. anticipation and fear mingling into a strange energy that filled every corner. We are all strangers in moments like this, wondering if we are ready for what we cannot yet see. The weekend ahead promised revelations, not just about the house or the invitations, but about themselves. And sometimes the most gripping journeys are the ones that force us to face the parts of ourselves we hide. The guests gathered round the long dining table, fine china and silverware gleaming softly under the dim chandelier light. Conversation floated carefully at first. Polite questions about work, hobbies, places visited. Yet small talk felt like a fragile mask. Tension hummed quietly in the air. Sometimes the quietest rooms hold the heaviest secrets. Every creak of the wooden floor made hearts jump. Eyes met across the table, searching for a hint, a whisper, a reason why life had brought them all here at the same time. The past has a funny way of catching up with us when we least expect it. Just as the first course was set before them, a crackle of static sliced through the room, and they froze. An old gramophone in the corner sprang to life on its own, its needle scratching, as if shaking off the dust of years. A low, deliberate voice began speaking, naming each guest, whispering of deeds long hidden, of choices thought forgotten. Disbelief rolled across the faces like a cold wind. Some fingers gripped cutlery until knuckles whitened. Others sat frozen, hearts hammering. It is strange how guilt can sit quietly in a chest until someone dares to name it aloud. Shock shifted to anger. Voices collided, rising and falling, each demanding an answer. Accusations spilling over, the room thick with mistrust. The housekeeper stepped lightly forward, her eyes wide, her voice trembling as she claimed innocence. She had only been hired to clean, to serve. Yet even her words seemed swallowed by the storm beyond the walls. Sometimes the truth feels too small to carry the weight of fear. Suddenly, as if sensing the danger like a bird, she fled, her footsteps echoing down endless corridors, leaving the guests staring at each other with suspicion and unspoken dread. The voice continued, steady, unyielding, leaving no doubt that every word, every accusation had been prepared long ago. The storm outside rattled windows and shook the rafters, urging them to feel the cold thrill of fear. Life often teaches us lessons in ways we cannot escape, and in that moment, each guest felt the quiet, unsettling truth that the past is never really behind us. It waits, it watches, and sometimes it comes for us with a voice that cannot be ignored. The storm outside raged on, rain lashing against the windows and wind howling through the trees. The guests tried to settle back into their rooms after the terrifying dinner, but the weight of what they had heard made sleep impossible. The house felt alive with shadows that whispered their own stories. Sometimes the night teaches us things the day refuses to show. Soft murmurs floated through the hallways as they tried to comfort one another. Yet unease wrapped around their hearts like a cold blanket, a reminder that fear often grows faster in silence than in words. Hours drifted by, and suddenly one guest was noticed missing. The group imagined he had gone outside for air or to calm his racing mind. Doors creaked open, hallways were checked. The garden glistened wet in the dim light of the storm. Their voices echoed into the darkness, bouncing back from walls as if the house itself was listening. Yet no answer came. only the relentless rumble of thunder and the cracking of branches. Sometimes we look for signs of life in the wrong places, only to find the truth waiting where we least expect it. Worry mounted, and they ventured closer to the cliffside, torches trembling in their hands, and there, in the mud and rain, lay the first victim, motionless near the edge, eyes staring blankly at the gray sky. At first glance, it seemed a tragic accident, a slip in the treacherous wet, yet something felt unmistakably wrong. The flashlight he had brought was missing, shoes suspiciously clean, the rain and mud betraying no trace. Life has a way of hiding its darkest lessons in plain sight, teaching us that appearances often deceive. Fear wrapped around them like thick fog as realization sank in. This was no accident. Every detail, every absence spoke of careful intent. The storm roared as if echoing their panic. Hearts pounded as suspicion carved invisible lines between them. Eyes darted from one face to another, wondering which one could hide such darkness. Sometimes the people closest to us carry shadows we cannot see, and in that instant, the chilling truth became clear. The killer was not outside, not some ghost of the storm, but among them, breathing, watching, waiting. And that is a fear unlike any other. The storm outside battered the guest house, rain pounding the windows and wind rattling the shutters. Inside, fear had settled like thick velvet, hearts thumping, eyes darting, every sound sharper than it should be. Sometimes the most dangerous things are the ones we cannot see, the ones hiding in plain sight. The guests moved quickly, latches sliding into place, doors bolted, the heavy front door barred. They huddled together in the main hall, a small circle of warmth and light against the cold, dark house, hoping that staying together could keep the shadows at bay. But even in that light, suspicion crept quietly, like a spider weaving its web. Accusations flew over, whispered reminders of past misdeeds, fingers pointing, voices trembling with fear and anger. The sins the gramophone had spoken of became weapons. Trust crumbled faster than the storm outside. Sometimes it is the people we thought we knew best who terrify us the most. And paranoia grew, curling around their hearts like smoke, a constant reminder that no one was truly safe. The housekeeper, small and trembling, begged to be allowed to leave, her innocence clear in the quiver of her voice. Yet the storm made escape impossible. The trees bent violently, lightning striking far-off branches. The cliffside, a slippery death. Her fear was contagious, yet also a mirror for the guests, showing them what it meant to be utterly powerless. Sometimes fear teaches us more than courage ever could. As hours passed, the guests stayed close, huddled like birds in a storm, shadows dancing across walls, every creak magnified, every whisper echoing. The murderer's presence pressing down like an invisible weight. The house felt alive, a cage built from both wood and fear, and they realized that sometimes the night is the teacher, and we are the students learning lessons about who we are when fear strips us bare. Every heartbeat, a reminder that survival is not just about strength, but about understanding the darkness within and around us. The night deepened, shadows thickening in every corner, voices rising in a mix of anger and fear, accusations flying faster than anyone could catch. Every glance weighted with suspicion. every movement a potential threat. The storm outside seemed to echo their panic. The wind rattling the windows, rain hammering the roof. Sometimes fear is louder than thunder and darker than the night itself. Then, without warning, the lights flickered and died, plunging the house into utter darkness. Screams erupted. A chaotic symphony of terror. Chairs toppled. Feet scrambled on the wooden floors, the air thick and suffocating. Everyone trying to find something familiar to hold on to. In moments like this, we realize how fragile the world really is. How quickly comfort can dissolve into chaos. When the lights returned, horror froze them in place. A guest lay in the kitchen, a knife buried deep in their back, eyes wide and empty, blood spreading across the polished floor. The sight made the heart ache, confirming their worst fear. The killer was not some shadow outside, not a random storm-driven intruder, but someone breathing the same air, someone they had shared cautious smiles with only hours before. The truth that danger can wear a familiar face settled like ice in their veins. Immediately, the group fractured, suspicion turning friends into strangers. Whispered doubts became sharp confrontations. Alliances formed and broke like brittle glass. The house, no longer a home, but a battlefield. Every corner hiding secrets, every shadow a threat. The storm outside howled as if mocking their terror. Sometimes the walls around us are the first to betray us. Paranoia claimed their minds, trust evaporating like morning fog. Each heartbeat thundered in their ears. Each glance, another question. Each shadow, a reminder of mortality. The guest house became a prison with invisible bars, the night stretching endlessly, teaching them lessons in fear, survival, and the darkness that can hide within the people we think we know. Sometimes the scariest monsters are not in the storm, but in the company we keep. The survivors crept cautiously through the guest house, hearts pounding, eyes scanning every shadowy corner, as if the walls themselves were hiding secrets. The storm outside battered the house, rain drumming against windows and wind rattling doors. Their footsteps echoed like tiny alarms through empty halls. Sometimes the quiet teaches us more than the noise ever could. Every creak felt like a warning. Every flicker of candlelight a reminder that nothing was safe. In a forgotten corner, one guest opened an old drawer, worn wood smelling faintly of dust and memories. And there, folded neatly, lay a piece of paper, ink slightly smudged, as if the writer had trembled while composing it. And the words inside were a puzzle, a riddle about justice, betrayal, revenge, and choices. It hinted that each person had been chosen for a reason, brought here because of a dark secret buried deep in their past. Sometimes the past follows us like a shadow we cannot outrun. The group huddled together, voices trembling as the note was read aloud, every word carving a deeper pit of fear in their hearts. One guest began to connect the dots, recalling old mistakes, moments of cruelty or selfishness, realizing slowly that perhaps they had all wronged the same person. The thought made the air heavy, each memory now a chain around their necks. Fear had grown intimate, personal, and unavoidable outside. The storm seemed to join their terror, thunder shaking the walls and lightning throwing jagged shadows across the rooms. Whispers of disbelief and panic were swallowed by the roar of the wind. eyes flicked nervously from one to another, trust evaporating like mist. The note had confirmed what they feared. The killer's plan was personal, meticulous, and merciless. They were pawns in a game where the rules were written in blood. By now, fear had become something they could almost touch, filling every corner, wrapping around their hearts. Suspicion and paranoia clouding every thought. The cryptic note was a key and a warning, a glimpse into the mind orchestrating the chaos. The night stretched endlessly, and in the quiet between storms, they understood the truth. The killer was always watching, always waiting, and there was no hiding from what had been set in motion. The night dragged on, heavy with fear and the unrelenting storm outside. Panic wrapped around the remaining guests like a thick, suffocating blanket. Two more vanished without a trace. One claimed a simple trip to the bathroom. The other said they were checking the basement. Their sudden absence sent chills crawling up the spines of those left behind. Sometimes the quiet absence of someone teaches you more about fear than any scream ever could. When the bodies were finally found, horror froze the three survivors in place. Each death staged with meticulous care, posed as though the killer wanted them to see. A message of control and malice that settled over the room like smoke. Every detail whispered of planning. The house had become a sinister theater, a trap designed to unravel their minds, and the storm outside seemed to applaud in thunderous waves. Sometimes terror is art, and we are its unwilling audience. Now only 3 remained, 2 wary survivors and the trembling housekeeper, their eyes darting nervously. Every movement felt dangerous, every sound suspicious. Trust had vanished like mist in the cold night. Whispers replaced normal conversation. Glances became sharp weapons. The storm roared like an omen, masking footsteps and creaks that could belong to anyone. Sometimes fear teaches us that even familiar faces can hide monsters. Desperation drove them to a fragile plan. They huddled together in one room, back to back, each taking turns keeping watch while the others rested, believing safety could exist in numbers. Yet even this plan began to crumble. Every small noise made them flinch. Shadows seemed to move on their own, and paranoia whispered that the killer might already be closer than they dared imagine. Sometimes our own minds are the cruelest traps of all. The night stretched endlessly, each second heavier than the last. Hearts pounding in rhythm with the storm. The house felt alive with menace, and the survivors understood a harsh truth. No corner was safe, no one could be trusted, and perhaps the morning would never come. The fear had become a companion, cold, intimate, and unyielding. By dawn, the storm had begun to ease, leaving a gray, misty morning over Misty Hill. Only 2 people remained alive, vast guesthouse eyes red from fear and sleeplessness. Muscles tense, minds racing. One suddenly lunged at the other, convinced their companion was the killer. Desperation turned every glance into suspicion, every gesture into a threat. Voices rose sharply, echoing down the empty halls. Sometimes fear makes us see monsters where none exist. A violent struggle broke out, fists and limbs flailing, the sound bouncing against walls, until one fell unconscious, gasping and bruised. The survivor's chest heaving, heart pounding, adrenaline mingling with lingering terror. Sweat and rain-soaked hair clung to their face. Eyes scanned the room desperately, searching for anything that might explain the night's nightmare. Sometimes the truth hides in the shadows, while panic rules the light. Trembling hands pushed open doors, peered behind curtains, checked beneath furniture, until a hidden door behind an old bookshelf revealed a small, dimly lit room filled with papers, books, and a large journal, its pages meticulous, recording the past wrongdoings of each guest. Each accusation carefully noted. The survivor's stomach twisted. Reading the journal made every whisper of fear from the night feel like prophecy. Sometimes knowledge comes heavy, and heavier still when it carries the weight of guilt and manipulation. Among the papers were photographs, letters, maps, proof that the host had faked their death. Watching silently as suspicion and paranoia tore the guests apart. The weekend had been a careful trap, a game designed to force destruction from within, leaving only the survivor to face the cold, calculated reality. Sometimes cruelty wears a calm mask while chaos blooms unseen. The realization hit hard, knees trembling. Echoes of the storm still whispering through the empty house. The terror of the weekend was over, yet the cunning and cruelty of the mastermind lingered, leaving the survivor with a chilling understanding the game had been orchestrated perfectly. The host always one step ahead, and the fear they planted would never fully fade. Sometimes the darkest lessons come wrapped in silence, and those echoes last forever. When the storm finally cleared, pale, misty sunlight drifted over Misty Hill, spilling across the guest house and making the wet roof glisten. Long shadows stretched lazily across the stone pathway. The police arrived cautiously, boots crunching on the gravel. Sirens muted by lingering fog, each step feeling heavier than the last, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. Sometimes the world waits silently for us to notice the weight of what has happened. Inside, they found the survivor, huddled on the main hall floor, clutching the heavy journal to their chest, eyes wide, hollow with sleepless terror. Hands trembling, voice barely a whisper, the memories of the night clinging to them like a second skin. Each creak of the old floors, a reminder that the house still held. Sometimes silence tells the story words cannot, and it speaks louder than screams. The guest house was a grim gallery. Bodies scattered like pieces of a macabre puzzle, each deliberately posed. Each placement a cruel signature of the mastermind. The police stared, frozen, trying to decode the meaning. Yet the more they looked, the less sense it made. Walls dripping with stormwater, shadows stretching in strange angles, the air heavy with lingering fear. Sometimes evil wears a quiet, meticulous mask, and it terrifies most when it doesn't shout. As officers gently questioned the survivor, piecing together fragments of the story, a gust of wind blew through a broken window, flipping the final page of the journal into the misty morning. It danced away unread, secrets slipping beyond reach. The survivor's eyes followed it as it vanished, a reminder that the mastermind's shadow was still out there, always watching, always waiting. Sometimes the end of a story is only the beginning of the dread it leaves behind. The day was eerily quiet, a silence thick with ambiguity and unease. The mist curled around the guest house like a soft, ghostly curtain, and the survivor remained frozen. The weight of the night pressing down, leaving everyone who heard the tale with a shiver, a wonder, and a question that would not leave their hearts. Was the true mastermind still alive, smiling somewhere in the folds of the fog? And would they ever be seen again? Sometimes the most haunting stories are the ones that refuse to end.